Fam, let me tell you about the chef's table, the process, and then I will speak about the food. First of all, you book it either before you get on the ship or while you're on the ship if there's any availability left. While you're on the ship, they will call you. They called me several times to verify that I indeed still want the chef's table and about my allergies. Then they'll let you know on the ship the time, the place that you need to meet up. And then the day of, you'd meet up at this location and you're escorted into the area to begin the chef's table and begin your meal. So before you were escorted in, though, they had you sign off on a sheet, and this individual had our names and our picture. They wanted to verify that the person said who they were. So they had our names, they had our pictures, and then we had to sign off on this form. And the form more or less was asking us, are we sick? Do we have any stomach issues? Things of that nature. Several items that we had to check off and sign it and date it. Then we would go into the area for the chef's table. On the Carnival Glory, it is adjacent to the restaurant, so it is right next to, or it's inside, but then there's a room in there, specifically in this restaurant for the chef's table. So you have choices to drink of water, sparkling water, white wine, and red wine. And then it has a full course menu. We came in there each time there was a food presented to us. The chef would explain the preparation of it. During the course of the meal, we one time went into the kitchen itself and they showed us how the melting chocolate cake, the famous chocolate cake on board Carnival ships, was prepared, how it was made. And then during the meal, there was also a magician that came in and he did his set. And it was a great experience. If you've never done the chef's table, I feel that you should try it at least once. And I spoke to the chef. One thing to know, that the menu varies by the class of ship. Not by ship, but the class of ship that you are on. And so you can go to a different class and have a different experience that you've had on a different other class of ship. So let's go over the food. How was the food? You know, I rate food on a scale of 1 to 5. And so it was so much to eat, but I don't feel like it was overwhelming until maybe the very end. Then it was like, okay. So I would recommend, if you know you're going into the chef's table, don't have a lot to eat beforehand, like maybe for lunch or what have you. Just kind of hold back a little bit, because by the time you get to the last course, you may feel a little full, a little stuffed. So let's go into it. Let's talk about it. The first thing they have is called the chef's reception. And what was on the menu, we first had the lobster and crab, and also double marinated beef. And so the menu had caramelized orange and vanilla gel crab claw cracker for the lobster and crab. Double marinated beef was savory toast, scallion emulsion, thyme, oil, vinaigrette. When I tell you that this thing was delicious, both of these, and it was kind of like very small, so almost like a tapas. Both of them were delicious on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 out of 5. So delicious. What a great start of the meal. Then they gave us the carbonated rock shrimp and also the pao de queso. The carbonated rock shrimp says raspberry chutney, baked green apple aioli, and chia seed crisp. And the pao de queso was prosciutto, baconaise, and pecorino. When I tell you once again, these small bites were packed with flavor. And so 5 out of 5 once again for each of these items. They were just delicious, and I was thinking I was ready. I was getting ready for this great meal because how they started off was so great. Then we went into what the menu calls chef's degustation. chef's digestation. And so then these now were bigger items, bigger portions, not huge portions, but bigger portions than what we started with. The first was called Tomato Elegance. And it says it's yellow and green heirloom tomato, veal, basil infusion, Parmesan ear, pear, gorgonzola, and walnut donut. And first, I'm going to be honest, I didn't really care for the dish on itself. And I felt like what this was showing was kind of a deconstructed salad, right? It had cheese, it had tomatoes, it had greens on it, and then it had like this walnut donut. And I thought it was a deconstructed salad. So some elements by itself kind of didn't work for me in terms of the flavor profile. And so I gave it a 3.5, but I felt like when you had the tomatoes and the with the walnut donut, it kind of gave it a little sweetness. And then if you had maybe something to drink like a white wine, then it gave it a little bit more balance of flavors. But the tomato part of it itself, I felt like it just needed a little bit more salt, a little bit of pepper, something to tie it together. So out of 5, 3.5 out of 5, because of the fact that when you had it together, it started to come together, but by itself, it just needed something more. Then was the Berkshire pork belly. If you've ever had pork belly before, you know, it could be a little bit fatty, and this wasn't that fatty at all. It was just so delicious, and it had baked carbonara, cumin braised ham. It was so delicious. It was a 5 out of 5 for me. It had to be the best pork belly I've ever had. It just was great. And then we had the sea bass. Now, sea bass, you know, I like fish. I like certain types of fish. And so it was a sea bass. Let me tell you about the sea bass. Smoked baby zucchini scales, tempered fava beans. I'm not sure if I've ever had fava beans before, but somebody said at the table they have to make something with these fava beans. They have to find out about these fava beans because it was so great. Mushroom cauliflower, beurre blanc, semonilla, puff, scampi, ceviche. Want to tell you once again, that ceviche was like a pop of brightness and acidity with that puff. It was just, and it's so genius. That's the thing about some of these things. Just beautiful, the way it's prepared. And that sea bass was so delicious. It was just a delicious sea bass, a delicious piece of fish with the zucchini, with the fava beans. 5 out of 5. I loved it. I really loved it. Then we had the lemon sherbet, and I think we had the lemon sherbet because we just had fish, and so kind of to get that fishiness out of our mouth and to kind of clean our palate. Then we had lemon sherbet, which is green apple and celery, granata, and a yogurt brittle. Once again, 5 out of 5. What was not on this course, but they had given us like a bread dish. And I felt like, okay, just like earlier on was the tomato elegance, and that was kind of like a deconstructed salad. Then they gave us bread with butter, but it was a different bread than they served in the dining room. And so because of that, I was like, okay, so they're kind of giving us the elements of what it would be in the dining room with the bread and the deconstructed salad, but in just a different and more creative way. Then there was a 6-hour braised short ribs. And so I've had braised short ribs before, and I felt like even though it was kind of like, you know, you could take the fork and it was just so smooth and so tender, I felt like it was just okay. Like it needed something. It just needed something more in terms of the flavor profile. It said it was slow cooked with 12 ingredients: sour onion, shiitake, mushroom bark. I love this shiitake mushroom bark. I've never had shiitake mushroom bark. It was crispy. It was sweet. It had some elements of sweetness to it. And so I thought that was something different I've never had before. And so when it came to that, I think it was like a 3 out of 5. I just felt like the meat itself just needed something more, and it was, I can't put my finger on it, so I say 3 out of 5 for that. And then the last thing was the tropical, which was another dessert. I did not care for this really at all. It wasn't, just wasn't to my liking. I guess this consistency of the dessert, it didn't have like a lot of sweetness to it. So let me tell you this. So for those individuals, I love the lemon sherbet. For those individuals that maybe not like a sweet dessert, you may love this dish. It wasn't sweet at all. It was just wasn't just to my liking. So because of the fact that I know that individuals may like it, but it just wasn't my preference compared to the sherbet I had earlier. I would give it like a 2.5 out of 5. Also, in the beginning, they take a picture of you, and so they gave you a free picture so that you can be able to remember the experience. Overall, I thought that it was a great experience. Was everything a 5 out of 5? No. Would I go back to it again? Yes, especially on a different type of ship, a different type of class of ship. I would go back to it again. I was more satisfied with this than I was a lot of times with the steakhouse. So I felt like the steakhouse could be hit and miss, but this was kind of really a great meal. I enjoyed myself, and I would definitely go back to the chef's table again. This is my second time doing the chef's table. I did the chef's table on the Carnival Sunrise as well, and both times I really had a great experience. And definitely check it out for yourself if you've never done it. Try different things. You know, it'll bring you out of your comfort zone sometimes. Like this menu didn't have raw items, whereas other times you may find something that's like cooked more raw, where you may like something more well done. And so I thought that this was a great menu. Fam, can you do me a favor? Can you like, comment, and subscribe? Click on the notification bell to be informed of future posts. It will greatly help my channel. And for those returning subscribers, thank you so much for supporting the way that you do. And until next time, happy travels.